Are you looking to grow your business to a 6, 7, or even 8 figures without killing yourself? Hi, this is Eric here, and you're listening to
Highly Sought After.
If the answer is yes, you're going to love today's interview with Alvin Poh, an internet entrepreneur based in Singapore. At the age of 33 years old, he sold his internet business Voiden for $30 million. You hear it right, $30 million. This was the business that he scaled up from $0 all the way to Singapore's #1 hosting provider with 35,000 clients and a team of 150 before the 8-figure exit. Alvin then spent the next few years traveling the world, exploring new hobbies like snowboarding, kite surfing, and many, many more. In 2020, he returned to Singapore and developed the 5E Scale engine, which was the framework he used to scale up his business. Using that, he coached entrepreneurs just like yourself on how to super scale their businesses so that they can achieve breakthrough profits and find time freedom. If that's what you want as well, keep listening to this interview. Okay, now Alvin, you got to tell me this, right? I know you were a kid, with just pocket money for lunch and for bus ride.
Yeah.
And then
much.
How do you end up being an internet CEO?
I didn't dream of becoming like a CEO. So things started really, really small. Like all I wanted was enough money to hang out with my friends.
Yes.
All right. And as a kid, I had to find that money by myself. My parents only gave me enough for like food from the school canteen and maybe and the bus rides. So the alternatives or the choices to me back then were like part-time jobs, which typically paid about $5 an hour, or starting your own thing. So long story short, I just decided just start your own thing, be a freelance web designer. That gave me a lot of time flexibility, and one thing led to another. And suddenly I was like running this tech company with my co-founder, and that was the business that we grew 17 years and eventually sold at for $30 million at
Exactly, and that's pretty impressive, right? Let's break it down. So I know I calculated, because you said that you were doing this at 33, you sold it off, and you were doing this for 17 years, which means that you started this business at 16 years old, right?
Yeah, 17
so,
actually.
17 years old.
17.
So you were a web designer. How did it evolve into a web hosting company?
Wow, that's a huge story in itself as well. So I remember getting involved in web design because I was always on the computer. And then one day my relative, he just asked me to design his company website for him. And I said yes, not knowing anything. I said yes. Thankfully, I managed to find out how, right? And delivered the website to him, got paid as well. The money wasn't a lot, but it was instrumental. It was actually like life-changing because it showed me that my skill sets could be monetized. Like people were willing to pay money for my skill sets. That was the day I decided to go all out into web design. And I did that for a few years. That was how I roped in my co-founder as well. Mm-hmm. He was literally the guy that I sat beside to the first day of Temasek Poly.
Now,
right?
Those of you who are classmates with Alvin, don't you wish that you were like his classmates? You could have been the co-founder of a $30 million company. All right, anyway. So you reach out to him, he helped you with the web design company. Okay.
Yeah, we started doing more and bigger web design projects, but ultimately we were students, right? So we were balancing school and work. And we didn't know it back at that time, but we wanted to pivot. Like even the word pivot was something unknown to us. We basically just wanted to change the business into something that's a bit more sustainable. And that came in the form of web hosting, right? We looked at the resources that we had available at that time. It was the customers that we served, the market that we had access to. And knowing that, we knew that everybody who needed web design needed web hosting. And that was how we had the idea to just do that pivot, go into web hosting and focus on that product-based business and, grow it from there.
Very interesting. So you move from service, which is very human dependent, into product, which therefore allow you to scale, right? Which is the theme for today's interview. And you guys, if you want to know how to scale your business without killing yourself, you got to keep staying to this interview, okay? Now, so 2 men, how do you evolve, become 150?
Well, it didn't happen overnight.
Your whole entire Temasek Poly
join us, right?
join you.
It was a long process as well. At first, we were struggling. We got the first person to join us. I don't know how we did it. We managed to persuade him to join us. And then we started growing from there. We didn't know anything. Again, we were fresh out of school, students, right? That had no experience in business, just getting into business. And so we had to figure out a lot of things along the way. Something as simple as, I remember our first employee was just going through his probation period, and we were, both of us, my co-founder and I wanted to confirm him, right? And we just talked about, discussed his employment package out in the open. We were in an open office at that point of time, shared with 2 different companies, and everybody was seated in the open, and we just discussed his contract right in the open. And,
how old were you?
That must have been 20-ish, early 20s, I think. That was the first.
Freaking amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so that was your first employee?
Yeah, and then we realized, oh no, we shouldn't do that. These are the things that should be discussed in private, right? go in a meeting room at least. And but that kind of gives you an idea of the kind of business people that we were, the kind of business knowledge that we had. And everything we had to do, we found out through the hard way. We had to learn and experience it ourselves, and figure out how to solve things ourselves.
And was back then, from one employee, right? Was it an intentional plan that you want to hit 150 staff, or how did it happen organically?
Oh yeah, no. I think it was always, we always operated on a model of being very lean, right? Lean in terms of not spending unnecessarily. And mind you, this is back then when VC funding and raising capital and all that was unheard of. Our company was actually essentially bootstrapped, 100% self-funded, no external investments at all besides my co-founder and myself. So every single cent that we spent had to be justified, right? It had to be something that would contribute to the business growth. And so that was the mentality that we had in terms of finances and growth at that point of time.
That's fantastic. Now, of course, a lot of us will be very curious to know the how-to, so we'll talk about that in the second half of the interview. But I have a 3-part question. I call this the $1 million question, which actually, no, it's a $30 million question, right? So now, it was on the news, right? So you got bought over, Dreamscape, and then 30 million. How did that make your life better?
I think money is essentially, to me, a tool. And the thing with money is it amplifies things, right? Who you are, what you want, it all gets amplified with the more resources you give it. Money being one of the resources, right? For me, life didn't really change that much. In fact, I think it actually allowed me to explore more things. I gave back to the school when I could, because now I could actually give other people the opportunities that were given to me back then as a student. So I created a scholarship fund, and now
beautiful.
Every single year there'll be a scholar that would be created from that scholarship fund.
What's the name of the fund?
It wasn't very creative. It was called the Alvin Poh Fund.
Well, I think it's a namesake. I think it's a good name. All right, so you have the Alvin Poh Fund that you get if you're from Temasek Poly, right?
This was in SMU.
Oh, that was already in SMU. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay. But you said things amplified, right? So tell us what were some of the things that you acquired?
So I didn't really acquire much. I did. I got a Lamborghini. That was my dream car.
Wait, first of all, do you guys just hear what he said? He said, I didn't acquire much, and then after that, the next sentence, he said, I got myself a Lamborghini. Well, it's true, huh? 30 million really amplifies everything. Okay, so you gotta tell us what are some of the things that you bought.
I think the biggest purchase that I bought was the Lamborghini. Back then, it was a Gallardo, the 560-4, and that was my dream car. When I was growing up as a kid, that was my wallpaper on my computer, And one day I realized I could afford it and I could get it. And so I did. But then I realized that in that ownership period that I had with the car, which lasted about a year, the two happiest days that I had were the day that I bought it and the day that I sold it.
Oh my, tell us more.
I remember there was this one day that I was driving back home from work and it was peak hour, right? Suddenly I realized there was something wrong with the steering, so I pulled over. Turns out the tire had blown, so I called a tow truck and waited by the side of the road for 20 minutes for the tow truck to come. Because no matter what kind of car you drive,
You still need a tow
you
truck.
still need a tow truck and you need to wait for that truck to come. So while I was waiting there, I remember this one particular motorcycle that just went past, slowed down, and there was a pillion rider on it, right? Both of them like looked at me, pointed at me, laughed, and then sped off. Right? I'm like, oh wow, why did I put myself through this? And that was just the beginning of my problems, because after the tow truck, sent the car to the workshop, I realized that I couldn't find replacement tires because it's a special tire, right? You can't just buy it. And it was like 7 p.m. and I had a flight that night and I had nowhere to leave the car. So it was really, really terrible. I had to like scramble and I just felt like I was giving myself all these unnecessary stress. Yeah, and this is just one of the examples that happened. After that, I realized that material possessions don't make people happy. At least it doesn't make me happy. And that was when I decided to like sell almost everything that I had. I became a minimalist, especially from the years of like 2018 to 2000. I sold everything that I had. My life possessions could fit into 2 duffel bags. And yeah, I actually left one bag at my parents' place, took one bag, and I went traveling around the world with it.
I see. Wow. From a multi-millionaire to a minimalist because of that one incident, one pivotal point.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's because of one. I would say it was accumulation of all these experiences that showed me that material possessions aren't like the key to like happiness or whatever it is that you're looking for. And so it has to be much more than that. And that's why I say money is a tool. It's not gonna be the answer. Yeah.
And so you say that, material goods are not your source of happiness, right? Then what is currently your source of happiness then?
Freedom means a lot to me. Knowing what your purpose is, knowing why you are doing things, and then being free to pursue it. I think that is something that is truly meaningful.
Would you say that that's something that's universal? Or it's because of who you are, that's your core value, and that's why that's important to you, and that's why it makes you happy?
I think for me, particularly, that's something that rings, very true. But I believe that that's something that, is true for everybody as well. It's just a matter of how much importance it's placed in their lives. For me, that sense of freedom, that sense of liberation is absolutely like crucial. And I see that linked to like your passion, your purpose very much.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. I mean, there are a lot of entrepreneurs listening to you, and I'm pretty sure one of the standard goals that everybody set in their business is to be a millionaire, and then to be 2 million, then to be 5 million. But hearing from somebody who has achieved it, and then realized that it did not actually make you very happy, I guess it gives us a glimpse to the future. Right, that maybe there's something else that's more important. Our purpose, our freedom.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into a little bit of the technical details, all right? Because we have some entrepreneurs here, who would say that their dream goal is to get their company to be bought out, right?
Okay.
So was your exit strategy very clear cut right at the beginning, that set up internet company, get bought over?
No, not at all. Not at all. Wow, it was probably like not even one of the first few things that we were thinking about. So for us, I think having a business was one of like duty and responsibility. At the start, when we first started the business, it was all about like survival and money, right? It was either that or go get a part-time job or a job, right? And so that was how the business got started. But very, very quickly after that, we realized that it's not about the money anymore. It's always like, I don't know, when it dawned upon us that all our customers that came to us actually trusted us and relied upon us to provide the service that they were looking for. We knew that, without us, without the company that we had, anyone else in the market at that point in time couldn't provide the level of support that we gave, couldn't provide the level of like stability, speed, and security that we provided as pillars of our web hosting service. And so it became very clear to us that it's transcends like, just profits. It's why your business exists.
It's like a responsibility.
Yeah, for us it was truly that. And that sense of responsibility was something that guided us in everything that we did for our business. So the investments in the people that we had, the services, the product, the software, were all developed because of that responsibility to our customers.
And would you say that the more you focus on serving your customers, the bigger the business grow?
I would think so. Yeah, I completely agree about that. And that's why customer centricity is such a big part of the coaching that I do for my entrepreneur clients. If you have that passion to serve your clients, creating that product or service that gives them that value that they want, there is no way that your business is going to do badly. There's no way that you cannot grow. It's then a matter of making sure that your operations are airtight, that you're efficient, and then you have all the systems and processes in place, and then you will naturally scale.
This is so beautiful because I was just watching a YouTube video by the founder of Mind Valley, right, that talks about the 4 rules of life four surprising rules of life that most of us wish we know very early. And rule number 3 says this, that your life is not about you. Your life is about the lives of everyone you touch. It's not about you.
Yeah.
And it leads back to rule number 1, which is everything centers around personal evolution. He says this, your work is not about your work. Rather, your work is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for personal evolution. That your career is there for you to evolve. Yes. Your family is there for you to evolve. Love life is there for you to evolve. And if you center around serving yourself and serving others, you can't help but to grow. Everything else grows.
Right. I absolutely believe in that as well.
Beautiful, right?
Yes.
And so I love it that if you want to scale, what I'm learning from you is that we need to not focus on the fruits, which is the money, the influence, and all that. We need to focus on the seeds.
Yeah.
Right? And that's service, and that's about self-evolution.
Yes.
And then the business will grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So
beautiful.
I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs get flipped, right? And then they focus on the wrong things instead. And then in the end, they face like roadblocks and obstacles time after time.
It's so true because I graduated with a tech entrepreneurship degree, which is actually an embarrassment because I didn't even start up a tech company. So I shouldn't even mention this in the interview. I just say it and I was like, dude, Eric, you're just speaking in front of a real tech entrepreneur. But I tell you something, so I'm not even going to mention the university I come from. So I want to say that when I was in school learning about entrepreneurship, they taught us a lot about how to get acquired. And they say it's all about acquisition of assets. You need to grow your customer base. You need to increase capital. But it's very, very transactional.
Yeah.
Right? But I love the heart of your business, the heart that you put in, which is that you don't really care about all these things, the metrics, the real world metrics. You just got to focus on doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Which is, did the business help you grow? Like even if you face obstacles, do you evolve and grow in the process? Because as you evolve, your business evolve because it's interlinked. And that if you keep your eyes on the prize, which is serving your customers, they will return that favor and serve you back. And that's how your business grows.
Yeah.
Which means I don't have to ask you the next question, which was, how do you position yourself for acquisition initially? Because you have already kind of answered that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
We actually had a market share in the country, and that came from that customer centricity, right? But more so than that, is actually creating a business that's actually sellable. So while we didn't have that notion of wanting to sell,
Correct.
That option was always available for us.
Why?
Because we had the systems and processes in place. I, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, could take a break. I regularly took like 3-week vacations back then to snowboard, or like I went to Europe as well. And I didn't have like phone calls every single time.
While having such a big team and so many customers, 35,000, you could go for a 3-week break.
Yeah.
Would you say that the reason is because you were on the business, but you're not in the business?
Yes.
This is always this typical saying,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, we will definitely unravel that in a short while, but maybe very quickly tell us, right? How do you make a company that we build sellable? Like in a few criteria, what are some things that they are looking for as investors?
There's many. I mean, like when you want to buy something, it has to be valuable, right? So value has to be there. You got to be of a certain size, profits and all that, right? But I think, beyond all that, ultimately, what makes a business that truly valuable and truly something that others want to buy is whether or not the business founder, the owner, the entrepreneur needs to be there, right? And it blows your mind, but the less reliance the business has on the entrepreneur, the more valuable it is for others.
This is such a mic drop moment. Such a mic drop moment, because you think about it, right? We built that business, that's our child.
Yeah.
Right? We want it to be like super attached to that.
Yeah.
But the more attached we are to the business, the more the business cannot be sold.
Yeah. So it's actually the mindset, right? A lot of times entrepreneurs, they don't want to let go of responsibilities. They don't want to let go of tasks. They don't want to empower their team because they feel like they can do it best, they can do it better, or they don't trust others and all that. But it becomes this vicious cycle, and then in the end, they cannot scale because of what's in their mind.
Brilliant. Which leads us very nicely to the topic on scaling, right? What's the difference between, because I see people use it very loosely, or I want to scale my business. Another person will say, I want to grow my business. Is there really is there a distinction between these two words, scale and grow?
Yeah. Fundamentally, when we look at growth and scale, growth has the connotation of, both has the connotation of increasing in size.
Exactly,
right?
expansion.
But when we look at growth, it's a very linear kind of expansion. And let's look at revenue as well as costs. Those two things always happen in businesses, right? There's revenue that you bring in, and then there's costs that you spend in order to support that revenue. In growth mode, this happens like linearly. As revenue increases, your costs increase as well. Right? Happens a lot in, say, service-based businesses, especially when your contracts and your clients and your projects increase, you hire more people, right?
Yeah.
And cost gradually increases as
true.
well. That's kind of like growth mode, right? In scale mode, the same thing can happen, right? But revenue is increasing at a much faster rate, and costs are very, very contained. So the ratio is broken, and you can increase. And that is why sometimes when businesses and entrepreneurs find that they get more and more revenue, they feel more and more stressed.
So
right?
true.
Because although their business is growing and revenue is increasing, their costs are actually like
going up as well. Yeah, following. Yeah, right behind.
Yeah,
chasing.
So the stress is there.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we look at scale, we're not just concerned about size of operations. We are looking at breaking that ratio, creating the systems, the processes that allows us to have the kind of sustainable growth, which is scale.
Impact. All entrepreneurs want their companies to be of impact, I would assume, right? That we want to be huge impact, but without the bad stuff, without the dark side of the business, which is the anxiety, the stress, and the pressure because of the overhead. Case in point, I was with an entrepreneur who introduced me to the boss of a Japanese sushi restaurant, and his monthly cost is about $250,000.
Yeah.
250,000. I cannot fathom. 250,000 is equivalent to what people probably earn in a year for a business, but his cost is that high. Now, no doubt, yes, it's a very well-known restaurant, so he makes a lot. But during COVID-19, cost dropped. Revenue dropped, but cost remains.
Yeah.
And it's very stressful to know that you have a $250,000 cost every month. It's just it has a toll on you.
Yes.
Wow, beautiful, right? Oh my God, Alvin, you no one has ever explained growth and scale such elegantly, and now I get it. It's so beautiful. Now, there will be people listening to us, watching us, that would say, but Alvin, convince me, why do I have to scale my business? Why can't I keep it small? Why can't I let it be a mom and pop shop? What do you have to say to these people?
Again, scale doesn't have to do with size. You can keep a boutique agency, a mom pop shop, whatever, right? But scale comes when you look at the systems and processes around what you do, and the less reliance you have on any individual, including yourself, the better. So with scale, we look at systems and processes, how to make sure that everything runs when problems happen. One of the things that I talk about is, you don't really want to put out fires constantly, which is what happens in business.
Very stressful.
You want to prevent the fires from happening in the first place. Right? And to do that, you need to have the processes, the team in place. You can keep the business small or of a certain size, but just make sure that all these are in place.
You know what? I love what you just said, because now I kind of get an answer, which is it's not about whether you want to scale or not, or how big you want to scale the business. Is that it gives you an option.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If you have all these processes, the word you said was systems in place, right? Then I have the option to either keep it small, or I have the option to grow it big, depending on my ambition and depending on the market demand, right?
Right.
So that's beautiful. I think that answers the question. Now, Before we go into, the how, right? I'm pretty sure there are a lot of mistakes that entrepreneurs make today as they try to scale their business, right?
Yeah.
Could you share with us what are some of those mistakes? And then how do we avoid them?
The fourth pillar in the 5E scale engine is engage, which is got to do with the customer. When we look at the customer journey, the very, very typical mistake that entrepreneurs make is focusing on only the front part of it, the sales and the marketing part of the customer journey. And the analogy that I like to use is the leaky bucket analogy, right? So imagine you want to hold water in a bucket, the water being your customers and your sales. All of that is what people always focus on, but they don't realize that their bucket is leaking. And so the water just keeps flowing out. A much better way of approaching this is if your bucket wasn't leaking, right? And therefore, you don't really need that much water to come in. You don't need that torrential pour.
That means that huge amount of revenue.
And everything you get stays in the bucket. That is literally what we are doing when we have a very holistic approach in our business. Instead of focusing at the front, which is sales and marketing, the inflow of water, we look at how we can have a very solid customer fulfillment process. We want to make sure that customers come in, they refer their friends, and not only that, they also renew. They keep coming back, buying more from us, products and services.
This is so interesting. So mistake number one is a lot of businesses are focusing on acquiring customers.
Yeah.
But what we should be doing is about focusing on how to ensure the customer have a good experience with us, stays with us, and refer their other friends to us.
Yeah,
that's more
exactly.
important, which is a process goal, right?
Yeah.
Rather than an outcome goal.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Give me one more. Hey, come on, let's make the best out of this guy, right? Give us one more mistake that entrepreneurs might be making right now as they scale their business.
So one of the questions that people ask is, okay, so I might be running a 7-figure business right now. How do I get to 8 or 9 figures? People don't understand that, or people don't realize that it actually requires not just the business to grow, but also the entrepreneur himself or herself to grow.
There you go. Self-evolution.
Evolution, like you mentioned just now. And one of the keys or one of the concepts that needs to happen is this concept of what I call leverage. The entrepreneur is typically asking himself, how can I do this? How can I solve that? Or how can I do this or whatever, right? That needs to change into incorporating leverage with teams and with systems by changing the question to how can we solve this, or how can we do that, or
how can I look for somebody else out there that can help me solve this problem?
Yeah, we look at how to leverage upon the team that we have, all the processes that we have to get the result that we want. It's no longer just based on the individual. Because it's so much more powerful when you can actually utilize the team or your systems to get to that result that you want.
Got it. So the next mistake that we make is that we are very I focused, which is we take responsibility, right? So we're like, how can I do this? How can I do better? But if we want to take the business to 7 and 8, we need to be asking, how can we as a team do it?
Yes.
Or how can the processes help us do it?
Yeah,
Or
leverage.
what kind of external resources?
Yes.
Leverage. So one is leveraging self. The other is leveraging others.
Yes.
That is another distinction.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can make it even more memorable for our listeners and viewers, right? You see, most of our businesses probably are 5 to 6. Is there a distinction between a 6-figure business and a 7, and then a 7 to a 8?
I think in businesses, there's 3 main areas that a business typically goes through. Right, at first there's the launch phase. The business is just starting out. They don't really know why they're there. trying to find out what their product market fit is.
Correct.
They're trying to find out why customers choose them, what their difference is. After that comes the growth stage. The growth stage, everybody is now on a more stable ground. Product market fit is more known. Customers are coming in and they have a better idea of the differentiation factor that they have, right? But they're still not at the scale stage. The scale stage is literally a stage, and it could be 6, 7, 8, or whatever number you're at, right? But that is the stage where now you're looking at the systems and processes and trying to remove redundancies and bottlenecks in the business.
Wow. Okay. So what you're saying is that we should never see it as a mindset of a 6-figure business or a mindset of a 7-figure, because 6, 7, 8, they're really just fruits.
Yeah, it's arbitrary,
It's
right?
just arbitrary. But what we should be focusing on is, are you having a launch mindset, a growth mindset, or a scale mindset?
Yeah.
But if as an entrepreneur, as a founder, I have already a scale mindset, I'm destined for an 8 to 9 or 10-figure business.
Well, hopefully with the right things in place, but yes.
With your
yes.
book.
Yes, my book.
Right, with your book. And so that kind of brings it very nicely to your book, because you successfully scaled a business from a 0 to a 30 million. And no doubt back then, I guess you learn it from trial and error, right? But you managed to down it to 5 E's. So, would you be able to show us a little bit? So maybe you can take a look, right? So those of you on YouTube, right, if you're watching us on YouTube, wow, it's a beautiful blue book, right? The title of the book is called, now I'll let him do the honor of reading the title. Could you read us the title of this book?
Right, it's called Super Scaling. It's a book that encompasses all the knowledge that I had, 17 years worth at least of entrepreneurship experience. I took more than a year to condense all the knowledge, the lessons that I had into a framework. And
beautiful.
this is the 5E scale engine that's contained inside there that took months to develop. At first, it was the 3-pillar framework, and then it became 4 pillars, and then I realized it wasn't comprehensive enough and didn't cover everything. So then I included 5 instead, and finally came up with the 5E.
And what I think is brilliant is it's not just a one year effort, Alvin. I really think that, because you said that you started this business at 16 and then 33, that's how 17 years, right? It's 17 years of trial and error.
Yes.
17 years of mistakes.
Yeah.
17 years of realizations condensed in a book.
Yeah.
You're buying us time.
Exactly.
Now, before we go into the book, right? One more question first. A lot of entrepreneurs probably going to think about what you said, including myself, and we'll go like, this guy's right. Like, we need to go and scale our business, right? But you know what, Alvin, the fact of the matter is that we're always bogged down by the things that are very urgent, which is we need to hit our next quarter goal. We need to bring in the revenue. We need to firefight. So it's a chicken and egg thing, you know what I mean? Like, we want to be free so that we can sit down and, in a zen, nice location, a nice retreat, and then start looking at our business.
Yeah.
So how do we do it? It's as if like you're asking us right now to change the system of our car while driving our car.
Pretty much, actually.
How do you do
Pretty
that?
much.
How do you change the wheels while driving the car?
So that's why it's not a question that I can answer with an answer like this so simply. That's why this whole framework is there. We need to start from who we are, the kind of beliefs that we have first. That's why the first E of the 5E scale engine is evolve. We as people need to let go of certain beliefs that we have and adopt new ones that empower us to develop into the entrepreneur that we need to be.
Beautiful.
Only then can we start looking at the business.
In other words, the first E is a very self-oriented
Yeah.
E. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the second E?
The second one is envision. That one is about the business, the vision of the business model, the roadmap that you have. You need to turn it into something that's concrete so that not only you, but the team that you have, the customers, your business partners, the suppliers, whoever it is, right, knows what it is. That is envision.
Third E?
Empower. That's when we finally can start moving on to the people that we have in our company, whether they are contracted, whether they are full-timers, whether they are remote, local, wherever they are, Empower talks about how we can build a really powerful company culture and get everybody to perform very highly as a team. And that's
and then the fourth E?
Engage. Engage is the customer. Now we look at the customer. We've got everything sorted internally. Now we look at the customer. That is the 5-step process that I mentioned, where people have to understand where in the customer journey they need to improve. How can they optimize things? How can they serve the customer better? And not just focus on sales and marketing.
So brilliant. And you know what? The scary thing is that if you hold a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you. So if let's say you're good at sales and marketing, you will essentially just look at the sales and marketing of the business and not everything else.
Yeah, everybody looks at the latest Facebook ad hack, or any growth campaigns that need to hack their sales funnels or whatever.
And you just mentioned it very well. It's a leaky bucket, right? I mean, yes, you can get all the water in, but if there are a lot of holes, you're not going to do much impact.
Exactly.
Right, beautiful. What's the last E?
Execute. So execute is finally where we look at efficiencies. My favorite analogy is with Usain Bolt, right? If I were to take part in a sprint against Usain Bolt, who is the world's fastest man, I can still beat him. The only requirement is if Usain Bolt runs in the wrong direction. And that is what happens when businesses focus on efficiencies first. That's why efficiency or the execute pillar is literally the last thing that we work on. We want to make sure that fundamentally everything is in place, that everything is sound before we look at efficiency.
Wow. So make sure you go the right direction first before you run fast.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So effectiveness, then efficiency. So there you go, guys. That's the 5 E's to scaling your business so that you don't kill yourself and yet to be able to be a huge impact to this business world. I think this is really, really beautiful. So now all of us are probably thinking like, how do we get this book?
So it's available on my website for a launch discount, superscaling.com/book. And it's available right now for $14.97.
Gosh, what a steal.
Yeah.
What a steal. $14 for 17 years of experience.
Yes.
You know what? I think, I guess for those of you who feel like, okay, if you're convinced, right, you want to have the option of, scaling a business so that you have time freedom, so that you have the profits that you want, right? Then you need to first tell yourself, get yourself this book first. Why? Because no point trying to, change your business if you don't even know what that framework is. I always feel that, like what you just mentioned, it's making sure now you have the why, make sure you have the what, like you know what to do before you go into the how. So okay, we'll definitely put your book link on our show notes, and cool. I've read your book once, right, and I definitely want to reread again. I think this is really, really powerful. So Alvin, thank you so much for taking the chance to be here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is so cool. Yeah.
And I'm curious, right? So what's next for you, man? I mean, like you have the life, you now have the book. What's next?
And this is why I'm having such a special promotional price on the book. The reason why it's at $14.97 is because I want more people to be able to access it and to read it, because the information, like you said, in this book is worth like 17 years of my life, right? Put into this handy book. Yeah,
by the way, it's like nice. I can put it in my bag and I can read it. And by the way, it doesn't make you fall asleep because like, the fonts are big enough and it smells good. I love the smell of fresh books. Yeah. Right, and I like the baby blue, by the way.
Thank you.
Got it. So anyway, sorry to cut you, but you were saying that, you want this on everybody's hands, right?
Yeah. When I was growing Voiden, I think it was a very lonely journey. I had my co-founder with me, but I didn't have the support of other entrepreneurs. It was hard to find like-minded people. Even the friends that I had, my secondary school friends or my school friends, they didn't really have the same like entrepreneurship life that I had, and it's very hard to talk to them about stuff that happened in my business. So one of the things that I really want to do is to build up this community of entrepreneurs, right? And have everybody like be supportive of each other and grow together.
Well, so there you have it. If you have spent the entire time watching this video or listening to this podcast, you are definitely one of Alvin's tribe. And I always believe that we're made to do big things in this world, but having an ambition alone is not enough. You need to have the proper guidance. And I truly, really believe that Alvin has what it takes in this book. So go get a book and go re-listen to this podcast or re-watch this YouTube video. Okay, so thank you very much, Alvin. I assume this book is mine.
Yes,
for me.
yes.
Well, I just take the book from him, assume.
really signed it.
There was actually a message. To Eric, thank you for always being a constant source of support and encouragement. I hope you enjoy this book. I don't think I would just enjoy this book. I'm gonna like really, in Mandarin we say 苦瓜烂熟, I'm gonna really study this book, and I'm gonna make you proud, man. I'm gonna scale that business of mine, right? Not just grow, but scale.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alvin. High five.
All right, thanks, man.
So there you have it. That is Alvin Poh, from a multi-millionaire to a minimalist to a master teacher of scaling of businesses. There's so much I learned from him, but I think the biggest one I've learned from him is the mindset of being an entrepreneur, which is, it's not about, see, my problem is that I always feel that I need to do everything myself. And therefore, there's always going to be a limitation to how big the company can grow. So my biggest takeaway from him was the mindset part of scaling a 8 to 9-figure business, which is I need to stop being self-reliant and I need to be more system-reliant. I need to be more resource-reliant. I need to be more team-reliant. And the minute when I can switch that mindset around, things open up. So it's really true, man. The mind is everything. When you start thinking differently, the entire world changes. and that's how you can fulfill all your dreams. So do go check out his book, Super Scaling, and not just check out his book, but remember the last part, he says execute. So make sure you don't just read it, but execute on it. And when you do get amazing results, please go let him know. He'll be so happy for you. If you like this interview, I post interviews like this once a week on YouTube. So remember to switch on notification, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.